I never thought a text could break me, but when my mom sent it, I felt my entire world shift. "You're banned from Thanksgiving, idiot. Don't even think about showing up." I stared at the screen, numb. Was this really happening? After everything I'd done for her, after all the years of sacrificing my time, my money, this was the thanks I got? The years of manipulation, the guilt trips, the endless comparisons to my perfect brother, Tyler, the Bolden child, had taken their toll. But that text, that was the breaking point. I wasn't the obedient daughter anymore. I wasn't the one who always caved. Not this time. I had made my decision. I cut off the bills, I stopped paying for everything she relied on, and now she was banishing me from Thanksgiving, like I was nothing. But I wasn't the same Olivia anymore. I wasn't going to beg for scraps of love. No more. Not after everything I endured. And yet the phone kept buzzing. 87 missed calls. My heart hammered in my chest as I read her next message. "I know what you did. You're nothing but a traitor. Your brother will never forgive you." But I didn't respond. I couldn't. But what happens when a family that spent years controlling you turns on you? And what happens when you stop playing the role they assigned you? The real battle was just beginning. What would you do if your family turned on you like this? Drop a comment below. Stay tuned, because things are about to get real. I had always felt like the odd one out. Growing up in Seattle, the city where tech startups thrived and family-run businesses hummed along quietly, I was constantly fighting for my place. Tyler, my older brother, was the golden boy. It didn't matter what he did. He was always the one praised, the one who could do no wrong in my mother's eyes. And I was just there, the quieter one, the one who worked harder for every inch of recognition. I had always tried to make my mark. After college, I moved into my own apartment, cutting ties with the family home. It wasn't easy. Every part of me knew I had to do it, but it felt like I was abandoning a part of myself. Still, I needed space. I needed to build something for myself, separate from the grip my mother had on me. It wasn't that I didn't love her. It was that I was tired of her love coming with strings attached. My apartment wasn't grand. It was small, but it was mine. I loved it. I loved the freedom, the independence. It was a feeling I'd never had before, and I wasn't going to let anyone take it from me. Not even her. But no matter how much I tried to break away, the ties were still there. The constant phone calls, the text messages, the guilt trips. My mother never let me forget that I was part of this family and that my role was to take care of them. Helen, my mother, prided herself on being the center of our family. She was the one who held everything together, even if it was by manipulating me into doing what she wanted. She made sure I knew it too. Tyler never had to deal with it. He was the one who could come and go as he pleased, who could take whatever he wanted from the family and never be questioned. And Brad, my stepfather, didn't help. He had money, a lot of it, and use it to control everything. He didn't see me as part of the family. To him, I was just an obstacle between him and my mother's affections. He made sure to subtly push me out of the picture. Tyler, of course, was always the one to get the attention. It wasn't just about the money, though. It was about the power, the unspoken rule that I always had to give, always support, always be there when they needed me. And the moment I didn't, the moment I took a step back, that's when the trouble began. This Thanksgiving invitation, or rather the banishment, wasn't just about a family dinner. It was a line in the sand. It was my mother's way of making sure I knew my place. But this time, I wasn't going to be controlled anymore. This time, I was going to take a stand. And yet, even as I made my decision, a part of me couldn't help but wonder, what would happen when they realized I wasn't going to give in? How far would they go to pull me back? How far would I have to go to finally be free? Growing up, I didn't know a world where I wasn't compared to Tyler. He was always the better version of me. He was the golden boy, the one who seemed to have it all together without even trying. While I worked my ass off to get noticed, Tyler cruised through life. He didn't need to put in the effort, but he always got the praise. It drove me crazy. But what made it worse wasn't just that he was favored, it was how my mother compared us relentlessly. Helen, my mother, had a way of making it seem like everything Tyler did was some monumental achievement, while everything I did was just expected. Graduating college? Good for me. But Tyler had already built a career. It didn't matter that I was making my way in the digital marketing world, trying to carve out my own future. She'd always find some way to belittle it. I had learned early on that nothing I did could ever be enough. There was always a sense of disappointment, a silent judgment that hung in the air. The love I got was conditional. It always came with a price, and that price was usually my self-worth. Tyler and we were never close. He didn't need me to be. He had everything handed to him on a silver platter, and I resented him for it. Not because I hated him. He was my brother, after all, but because it seemed so damn unfair. While I was scrapping for every little bit of recognition, Tyler was the one who got to live in the spotlight, effortlessly. It felt like he could do no wrong, and my mother made sure to remind me of that at every opportunity. The tension in our house was palpable. It wasn't just the fact that my mother never truly saw me for who I was. It was the way she constantly put Tyler on a pedestal and used him as a weapon against me. If I didn't meet her expectations, she'd pull him into the conversation. Why can't you be more like Tyler? Or Tyler would never do this to me. I got so used to hearing it that the words didn't sting anymore, but they stayed with me, quietly eating away at my confidence, telling me that no matter how hard I tried, I would always come second. When I moved out and started living on my own, I thought I was finally free. I thought I was leaving all the emotional blackmail behind. I was building my own life, one free of my mother's influence. I got my own apartment, put the past behind me, and tried to make a future on my own terms. But of course, it wasn't that simple. Helen didn't like the distance. She didn't like that I was becoming independent. It was always about control, always about having me where she wanted me. And when I stopped paying the bells, stopped being the one she could rely on to hold everything together, I knew it would be the start of something. The Thanksgiving banishment was just the beginning. I didn't know it then, but I was about to lose more than just a holiday dinner. I was about to lose the illusion of being needed. And in doing so, I was going to discover who I really was without their expectations hanging over me. Have you ever been compared to someone who seemed to have it all together? Let me know in the comments. The tension's building, and the real drama's just getting started. The days after I cut off the bills were a strange mix of relief and anxiety. For the first time in years, I felt like I had control over my life. My phone stayed quiet for a few hours, and I let myself believe it was finally over. No more calls, no more guilt trips. For once, I could just breathe without feeling like I owed anyone an explanation or an apology. But then, the silence broke. It started with one missed call, then another and another. Before I knew it, the phone was buzzing nonstop. Helen, of course. I ignored the first few calls. I wasn't ready for the inevitable emotional blackmail that I knew would come if I answered. But as the numbers piled up, something in me began to shift. The old Olivia would have caved, would have picked up the phone to smooth things over, to make the tension go away. But this time, I wasn't going to be that person. I didn't call back. Instead, I just let the phone buzz in my hand, each call a reminder of the boundaries I had set. The texts started coming too. "You're ruining the holidays, Olivia. Why are you doing this? You know I need your help. You're abandoning me. I don't know what you want from me anymore, but you're killing me." Each message was more desperate than the last. Each word felt like a silent plea trying to pull me back into the familiar cycle of guilt and self-doubt. The old me, the one who always tried to fix everything, who always caved in when it came to her, felt like she was still lurking in the background, waiting to take over. But I fought it. I fought every impulse to call her back, to apologize, to fall into that familiar pattern. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me again. I had already made my decision. But then, one text came through that made me stop. "I know what you did. You're nothing but a traitor. Your brother will never forgive you." That one hit different. Tyler, of course. She was using him against me again. I could already see it in my mind, how she was painting me as the villain, the one who had betrayed the family. The thought that my own brother would see me that way made something twist in my chest. Tyler, my golden child brother, who never had to fight for anything, the one who always got the praise, the one my mother had put on a pedestal for years. I stared at the screen, reading those words over and over, but I still didn't respond. I couldn't. But I couldn't ignore the growing unease either. My mom was calling relentlessly, and now Tyler was somehow involved in this mess. What was going on? Why was Tyler stepping in now? And why was I feeling this heavy weight on my chest, as if I had made the biggest mistake of my life? I had cut ties for a reason. I had finally stood up for myself. But now everything felt like it was unraveling. I wasn't sure if it was the phone calls, the guilt, or the looming fear of what might happen when Tyler found out I wasn't coming to Thanksgiving. And then, just when I thought it couldn't get worse, the message came. "You've made a big mistake. I'm bringing Mom and Brad over to your apartment tomorrow. We're talking this through." My heart dropped. What did that even mean? Why now? Why was Tyler involved in this? What was their plan? I didn't know what to expect. I just knew one thing. This wasn't going to be a simple conversation. They weren't going to let me go that easily. The knock on my door sent a chill through me. I wasn't prepared for what was behind it, but I should have known. I had been waiting for this moment, dreading it, but still trying to convince myself that I wasn't afraid. I wasn't the same Olivia anymore. I had drawn the line, and I wasn't going to let them cross it. But here they were, Tyler, my mother, and Brad. I opened the door, and the weight of the situation hit me like a wave. They stood there, just as I had expected them. Tyler with his confident stance, Mom with her manipulative smile, and Brad, his usual aloof self. The tension in the air was thick, palpable. "Olivia, we need to talk," Tyler said, his voice surprisingly cold. I didn't invite them in. I wasn't going to play their game. Instead, I crossed my arms, standing my ground. "About what? About Thanksgiving?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. My mother stepped forward, the same expression she always wore when she tried to guilt me. "You've gone too far this time, Olivia. You've ruined everything." "Ruined everything?" I echoed, my stomach tightening. "What about everything you've done to me, Mom? All the times you've belittled me, compared me to Tyler, manipulated me into paying for everything you want?" Helen's face faltered for a moment. She wasn't used to me fighting back. I could see the crack in her armor, and for a second, I felt a flicker of satisfaction. But then she recovered, her usual smirk returning. "You think you're the victim here? You think you're the only one who's been hurt?" Tyler's voice cut in, surprisingly harsh. "You've made a mistake, Olivia. Cutting ties with Mom, with the family, this is going to cost you more than you realize." I froze. My brother, the golden child, was siding with her. Of course he was. It made sense now. He wasn't just a bystander. He was a part of this. He was on their side, trying to bring me back into the fold with the same manipulative tactics. He wasn't here to understand. He wasn't here to support me. I had been foolish to think he might care, but this was betrayal. "What do you want from me?" I demanded, my voice shaking slightly, but I refused to let them see how much this was cutting me. "You want me to apologize? To beg for your forgiveness?" Brad stepped forward, his deep voice interrupting. "It's not about that, Olivia. It's about family. You're making a huge mistake." I looked at him, feeling the bitterness welling up inside me. Brad had never been part of the family in any real way. He was a business guy, a man of wealth and control, and he always made it clear that he saw me as nothing more than an inconvenience. "I'm done," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. But there was fire in it now. "I'm done being manipulated. I'm done being your emotional punching bag. I've tried to be the perfect daughter for years, and look where it's gotten me. Nowhere." Helen's expression flickered, but she quickly masked it with her usual cold demeanor. "You're breaking this family apart. You think this is going to make you happy?" I wanted to scream at her, tell her how many years I'd spent trying to live up to her expectations, trying to be everything she wanted me to be. But I didn't. I couldn't. Tyler's eyes locked onto mine. There was no love in them now, no understanding, just coldness. "You're making a huge mistake, Olivia," he repeated, his voice final. And just like that, the betrayal stung deeper than I thought possible. The family I had fought for, the family I had tried so hard to hold on to, had turned their backs on me. I wasn't the daughter anymore. I was the problem, the outcast, the one who didn't belong.
But even through the pain, a new clarity settled over me. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the moment I finally saw them for who they were, and the moment I realized I didn't need them. Not anymore.
The door slammed behind them, and I stood there in the silence. The air in the apartment felt thick, like it was holding its breath. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My mind was still racing, replaying every word, every look, every accusation they had thrown at me. I could feel the tears welling up, but I didn't let them fall. Not yet. I couldn't let them see me break. Not when I had come so far, not when I had fought so hard to stand up for myself. But it hurt. More than I expected. To see my mother, the one who was supposed to love me unconditionally, turn against me so easily, and to have my brother, my flesh and blood, side with her, made me question everything I thought I knew about family. I sank down onto the couch, trying to steady my breathing. The numbness started to set in, dulling the sharp edges of the pain. I had done what I needed to do. I had cut the ties, and yet the weight of it felt unbearable. The silence stretched out, but I didn't know how to fill it. I kept telling myself that this was what I wanted, that this was the price of finally standing up for myself, but I was alone now. The family that had been my whole world for so long had just walked away, and the cold reality of it was starting to sink in. I picked up my phone, staring at the screen. Another text from my mother, another call from Tyler. My heart ached, but I deleted them without reading them. I didn't need their apologies. I didn't need them to tell me how wrong I was. I knew the truth now, even if it hurt like hell. I wasn't the daughter they wanted me to be. I wasn't the perfect, obedient Olivia who always kept the peace. I wasn't their emotional crutch anymore. I was just me. And for the first time in my life, I didn't have to apologize for it. But that didn't make it any easier. As I sat there, the weight of the silence pressing down on me, something shifted. The numbness started to fade, replaced by something else, something stronger. I wasn't going to stay here in this self-pity. I wasn't going to let this be my story. I stood up, walking to the window. The city was quiet below, the lights twinkling against the dark sky. And for the first time, I saw it clearly. My life was mine now. I could build it however I wanted. No more guilt, no more manipulation, no more trying to be someone I wasn't for a family that didn't care enough to see me. This was my moment. I wasn't going to waste it. It took me a few days to fully process what had happened. The numbness had worn off, and now all I had left was clarity. But clarity didn't make the pain go away. It didn't stop the ache in my chest every time I thought about my mother's face, her cold accusations, or my brother's betrayal. But then something shifted within me. I wasn't going to sit in this silence waiting for the next round of guilt trips or emotional manipulation. No, I had already taken the hardest step. I had walked away, and I wasn't going to let them come back into my life as if nothing had happened. I wasn't going to beg for their approval or love anymore. I had taken my power back, and now it was time to use it. The more I thought about what they had done, the more my anger grew. The more I realized how long they had used me to hold up their fragile little world. How long they had expected me to give, to bend, to break for their comfort, while they treated me like I was dispensable. I wasn't just going to stand idly by while they tried to make me feel small again. No, this time I was going to take control, not just of my life, but of the situation. I had something they didn't have, a voice, and I was going to use it. I spent hours planning, thinking about every little detail. What could I do to make them understand that I wasn't their emotional punching bag anymore? What could I do to make them feel the consequences of their actions? It wasn't about revenge in the traditional sense. It wasn't about hurting them. It was about showing them that their manipulation and control would no longer work on me. It was about giving them a taste of the power I had taken back from myself. I knew I couldn't just let it go. Not after everything that had happened. The Thanksgiving banishment, the guilt trips, the manipulation, it was all too much. They had crossed a line. And now they needed to understand that I wasn't just going to fall in line anymore. So, I started making moves. I cut off more than just the bills. I changed my phone number. I took control of my social media and made sure they couldn't track me. I stopped visiting places they knew I frequented. I was preparing myself to be free. Truly free. And with each step I took, the weight on my shoulders grew lighter. I was no longer trapped in their web. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. I was taking the next step toward becoming the person I was meant to be. Strong, independent, and unapologetically myself. I wasn't going to beg for their forgiveness. I wasn't going to crawl back into their world. They had made their choice. And I had made mine. And when Tyler finally came to me, when he showed up at my door again with my mother and Brad, I knew I would be ready. I wasn't going to let him sway me. I wasn't going to let any of them pull me back into their world of manipulation. I was ready for what came next.
Before we dive back into the story, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to make the tough decision to walk away from a family that was holding you back? Maybe you've been in a situation where you've had to cut ties for your own mental health. Or perhaps you've felt like the black sheep in your family. I want to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know what you would do in Olivia's shoes. Would you fight for your family's approval? Or would you stand firm and keep moving forward? We've all been there, facing decisions that feel impossible. And trust me, what comes next in this story, it's a game changer. Stay tuned because Olivia's journey is only getting more intense.
The doorbell rang at exactly 4 p.m. I had been waiting for this moment. And yet, as I stood in my apartment, a strange calm washed over me. I wasn't nervous, not anymore. I had spent days preparing for this, mentally, emotionally. They were coming to talk, but I wasn't sure what they thought they'd accomplish. I wasn't going to play by their rules anymore. I took one last look in the mirror, adjusting the sleeves of my black blouse. I didn't want to seem like I was hiding, but I didn't want to be overbearing either. I needed to be in control of the situation, and that meant staying composed. This wasn't just about the confrontation, it was about showing them that I had taken back the power. When I opened the door, I saw them standing there. Tyler, Mom, and Brad, looking as if they had every right to be there. Tyler's expression was unreadable, a mask of cold indifference. My mother, as usual, was trying to hold on to some semblance of authority, even though I knew she was fuming on the inside. Brad stood back, arms crossed, eyeing me like I was an inconvenience. "Olivia," Tyler said, his voice flat, "we need to talk." I nodded, stepping aside to let them in. "Talk," I repeated, my voice steady. "But I'm not going to beg, so let's get that straight from the start." Tyler's gaze faltered for a brief second, but he quickly regained his composure. "You've made a huge mistake, and you need to fix it." "Fix it?" I echoed, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. "You're all still trying to make me feel like I'm the one who's wrong when all I've done is try to live my life. I've done everything you wanted, I've paid the bills, I've kept the peace. But I'm not doing it anymore. I'm done being the backup, the emotional ATM." Helen, who had been silent up until now, finally spoke, her voice dripping with condescension. "You think you're so much better than us now? You think you can just walk away from the family like it means nothing?" "You never saw me, Mom," I shot back, my voice rising. "You only saw what I could do for you. I've been living my life for you, for Tyler, for Brad, for everyone, except myself. You think I'm the traitor? No, I'm finally taking control of my life, and it's about damn time." Brad chuckled from behind them, his presence as imposing as ever. "Control? You think you have control? This is a family, Olivia, and you're tearing it apart.
No, I said, my eyes locking with his. You've been tearing it apart. You, all of you, just used me. I was never part of the family. I was just the one who cleaned up after your messes. The silence that followed was thick, suffocating. My words hung in the air like a challenge, daring them to argue back. And yet they didn't. My mother's face twisted, but she didn't respond. Brad's eyes flickered with annoyance, but there was a crack in his cold demeanor. And Tyler? He looked torn. But he didn't speak. This was the moment. I wasn't backing down anymore. Not for them. Not for anyone. I took a deep breath, and with a level calm I had known I had in me, said, "You came here to fix things, to talk to me. But I'm done with talking. I'm done being your emotional punching bag. I've made my decision, and I'm not changing it." Tyler looked at me, his lips pressed into a tight line. The disappointment in his eyes felt like a weight, but I refused to let it break me. "This isn't over," he said, his voice low. I stood tall, staring him down. "It is for me." And with that, I turned and walked away. The conversation was over. The family I had tried to hold together for so long was now a thing of the past. I wasn't going to be their puppet anymore. I had found my strength, and nothing they said would take it away.
It's strange, really, how things change when you finally stop running. I thought I would feel relief or maybe even a sense of victory after standing my ground, but instead I felt empty. The silence that followed the confrontation was suffocating, like the air had thickened with every word that had been said, every accusation thrown my way. Tyler's disappointment still lingered, heavy in the back of my mind. I had never imagined that he would turn against me, that he would stand with Mom and Brad, siding with the manipulation instead of seeing the pain I had lived with for so long. And that hurt. It hurt in a way I wasn't prepared for, no matter how much I had built up the walls around my heart. But I couldn't regret my decision. I couldn't go back to that life, to that suffocating weight of family expectations, no matter how hard they pushed, no matter how much they tried to make me feel like I was the one destroying everything. I knew I had made the right choice. The phone stopped ringing, the text messages slowed down. It was almost as if they had all collectively given up, hoping I would cave again, hoping I would break. But I didn't. I didn't give them that satisfaction. And with every day that passed, I began to feel more at peace with myself. I started to fill the empty spaces with things that actually mattered to me, things I had forgotten about while trying to please everyone else. My career, my friends, my independence. I was no longer living for the approval of a family that never truly understood me. I was finally living for me. The healing process wasn't instant. It wasn't easy. There were days when I questioned my decision, days when I missed the idea of family, the comfort of knowing I was wanted, even if it was only when I played by their rules. But those days grew fewer as time went on. I started to see myself more clearly, and with that came the quiet realization. I didn't need their approval. I had everything I needed right here. I had my own strength, my own resilience. I was enough, just as I was. And that was more than enough to carry me forward. When I look back on everything, on the fights, the betrayals, the countless moments of doubt and frustration, I can finally see the truth in it all. It wasn't just about a family torn apart or a Thanksgiving dinner. It was about reclaiming my life, taking back the pieces of myself that I had given away without even realizing it. I had spent so many years trying to please everyone else. I had let my mother's voice drown out my own, let Tyler's success make me feel like I was never enough. I had wrapped myself in their expectations, in their need for control, and for a long time, I didn't know how to get out. But the moment I stood up for myself, truly stood up for myself, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: freedom. It wasn't easy, and it certainly wasn't comfortable. There were moments when I questioned myself, wondering if I had made the right decision, wondering if I was going to regret cutting them off. But then I realized it wasn't about whether they forgave me or not. It wasn't about whether they understood or accepted my choice. It was about me. It was about doing what was best for me. The one thing I hadn't realized before was that I didn't need to be defined by anyone else's expectations. I didn't need to play the role they assigned to me, whether it was the perfect daughter, the emotional support system, or the one who always took the blame. I was allowed to be my own person, with my own dreams, my own goals, my own identity. It took cutting ties with the family that had always been my world to understand that. And in the process, I discovered who I really was. Someone strong, someone resilient, someone who could thrive on her own. I'm not saying I don't miss them sometimes. I'm not saying it wasn't hard to walk away from the people I thought would always be there, but I've learned that sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the greatest growth. And the greatest thing I've learned through it all is you can't build your life around people who don't see your worth. I've learned to see my own. Have you ever had to walk away from something or someone that you thought you couldn't live without? Let me know in the comments. I hope this story resonates with you. And if you're still fighting your own battles, know that you're not alone. The journey is always worth it.
This story, my story, is far from over. In fact, it's only just beginning. Life has a way of challenging us, of pushing us to places we never thought we'd go. But it's in those moments of challenge that we discover who we really are and what we're truly capable of. If you're standing at the edge, unsure of which way to go, whether you're fighting to break free from the expectations of others, or you're just trying to figure out who you really are, remember, you are enough. You don't need anyone's approval to live your life. The only person you need to answer to is yourself. This story might have been about my family, but the lesson? It's universal. You deserve to live on your own terms, so don't let anyone or anything hold you back. If you've ever felt betrayed or misunderstood by those closest to you, you are not alone. We all have our struggles, but we can rise above them. We can take control of our lives and build the future we deserve. What would you do if you had to choose yourself over everything you've known? Think about it. And if you're ready to take that leap, I'm here with you. Comment below and share your thoughts. I'd love to hear how you've handled the tough choices in your life. And don't forget to subscribe, because there's more to come. This journey is just getting started, and I know there's so much more we can learn together. Stay strong, and remember, you've got this. Subscribe for the next chapter of this journey. We're just getting started, and you won't want to miss what comes next.